we're melting. This has been the current state of Texas. So naturally during times like this, I am just ready for that crispy weather. We're thinking all things fall. So today we're gonna do something fun. We're gonna plan my first fall garden. But first there's something I gotta do. We've got Happy Mail. So I placed an order for the MI Gardener end of season sale, which some of these I'm gonna be using for the next spring season. But I think all of these seed packets were just $1. Might have gone a little bit overboard. Some of these I'm not gonna be planting very many of because I don't know if we even like these vegetables, but I'm trying something new. Now up first, I'm probably only gonna plant one of these, and that is jicama. I think is how you pronounce it. It's a tuber that supposedly tastes like a cross between sweet potato and a water chestnut. I don't think I've ever even seen one of these before, so we're just gonna try it. Next up is arugula. I'm trying to branch out here, but I'm probably not gonna plant very much of that either. Next up, Brussels sprout, cabbage, and broccoli. I've never grown my own broccoli, but we really like it. So I'll probably plant a good bit of that. I plan on growing cabbage so that way I can make my own sauerkraut. And I know, I've never had Brussels sprouts. I've heard you either love them or you hate them. So we're just gonna plant a few. And of course, carrots. Carrots and potatoes are a huge part of our diet. We had a pretty good harvest of carrots from the spring. Next, we've got our onion family. So we've got just bunching onions. This will be my first attempt to grow like full-blown bulb onions. And last for herbs, we've got chives and cilantro. Now keep in mind with those, I live in zone 8A, so I've got a really long growing season. I can't grow a whole lot of cilantro and chives before they bolt in the spring because it just goes from winter to summer super fast. Now I've got something else to show you. This is my kitchen island countertop back here in case anyone is wondering, but here I have my very first attempt at growing sweet potato slips. So I started these in late spring. I was gonna plant them, but then they took forever to get any sizable growth on them. So I just keep watering them and letting them grow, and they're gonna go in my fall garden, and they'll probably taste better anyway with it being a little bit cooler. I'm hoping they'll be more sweet. Two things that I'm gonna plant that aren't here yet is garlic. I've never planted garlic because you just really have to plan ahead for that because it stays in the ground for so long. Got some pre-ordered. It should ship out, I think, at the end of September. And then potatoes. I want to do my biggest potato harvest yet. So we're gonna do red potatoes, the yellow potatoes, and then a really big batch of russet potatoes, or what we call our big bacon taters. So how do we know when to plant all this? So I'm gonna do my best to figure that out and hope the plants don't die. The good thing is a lot of these are plants that tolerate colder weather well, and we have such mild winters that I'm not worried about it that much. So now let's get a little bit of a garden plan. Full disclaimer, I'm about to show you a very overgrown and messy garden. So here's what we're dealing with in the garden. It got abandoned a long time ago. So you can't see most of them, but we're gonna fix it in the next video. But most of what we have, just had to pause and acknowledge my shirt. 5 raised beds that are, I think, 3 feet wide by maybe 12 feet long. Something like that. I don't actually remember. So I plan on designating 2 full beds to potatoes. We'll probably do 1 full bed for russet potatoes and then do half and half on the red and yellow potatoes. Next, we'll probably designate 1 full bed to carrots. I'm hoping this will be my biggest carrot harvest so that way I can go ahead and get them canned, frozen, and just save some of them fresh. That leaves me with 2 full beds for experiments. We use a lot of onion and garlic, so that will probably be 1 full bed. Then last, we've got all of our experimental things where I'm gonna plant 1 to 5 maybe of each. So we've got our jicama, broccoli, cabbage, arugula, all of those fun things that I just showed you. And that's gonna be my experimental bed. So then that leaves all of this over here. You're probably like, what are you gonna do with all that? That's fenced in. Well, to be honest, I would love to put in more beds. That's definitely not going to happen this fall, though. This was supposed to be my berry patch. We planted a couple berry bush twigs, and then I decided to use hay as some mulch around it to try and keep the grass growth down. Well, that didn't work, and you can see that's what it looks like now because we were having to get in there and weed eat all that. By we, I mean David. And some of the berry bushes in the process might have accidentally gotten taken out by the weed eater. So I've got some weed barrier coming in the mail today, so whenever we clean up all this, that's probably just going to go there until we figure out what we're going to do with it next year. So I've got to rein myself in a little bit. I get a little bit excited when it comes to trying to plan and plant the garden. We get everything in there, but then when it comes to maintaining it, well, you can see what happened. So we're going to hold off on adding any more raised beds for now, because to be honest, if it's not going to be low maintenance, I'm probably not going to do it. That's just the season of life that I'm in right now. So first you've got to be able to use what you grow now before you can add more, right? As far as getting this planted, my estimated first frost date, I think, is like November 9th. So I've got a hot minute. Things like my potatoes and carrots, those are going to be direct sown straight into the garden. But things like broccoli, I'm going to have to start them inside because it is way too hot for them to germinate out here. So, for example, on the back of this broccoli packet, it says days to germination is 10 to 21 at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about what the inside of my house is. Days to maturity is 65. So what I'm going to do is take my estimated first frost date back up a little bit based on what is on the back of the seed packet. So several weeks before my first frost, I'm going to go ahead and start these inside. And whenever it starts to cool off out here, then I'll transplant them out to the garden. So that's kind of the game plan. I've tried the whole map out your whole garden on paper, and do some real serious math on it, but I never really stick to that. So I think this is what I'm going to do. This is my first attempt at a fall garden, and then we're going to go from there. If you've done this before, let me know all your tips and tricks in the comments because I can use them. And if you haven't done this before, then join me on the journey. But first things first, we've got to get this garden cleaned up, and you'll be able to see that in my next video. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you next time.